Hey man, so what's going on? How are you, man?
I'm good. I'm good. How you doing, man?
Yeah, I'm pretty good, man. I just wanted to say thank you for hopping on this off the grid session with us to talk music and life and just all things Chrome in general, man. So first off, man, just to everybody, I wanted to welcome East Coast producer, specifically based out of Virginia, my man Chrome, one of the most probably down to earth human beings I know, and a man that possesses a very impressive music resume. This dude has produced for Rock and Roll Hall of Famers, multi platinum Grammy winners, and just an unbelievable list of who's who of hip hop artists and just music in general, musicians. Man, he's got an amazing resume. Wait, let's get into the start of Crow, man. How long have you been making music now?
Let's see. So I started 96, 97, something like that. I got a drum machine. I think I found it in the trash. And then it didn't work, but it was like, hey, this might be kind of dope. So I got one at Radio Shack. I think I still have it downstairs somewhere in storage. I started making beats for, just local MCs around the DMV. Just kind of off and on, and didn't really start pushing it until the early 2000s. So the first song that my first big single would be "A Long Walk Home" in 2005 with Razzcast.
Yep.
So
Wow.
that was it took a while. It takes a while to kind of get to that point, because obviously the industry now is much different than it was, in the late 90s, where the opportunities that you have now weren't as, you know, they weren't there at that time. So you were literally looking in magazines for addresses to send music off to, or you were looking, you know, just trying to find any information you could, going to concerts and trying to talk to people afterwards or before, just to get your beats into someone's hands. So it was a much more difficult process than it is now. When people say you were grinding, you were literally grinding. Like you're,
Yeah.
out there, you know, handwriting CDs that you're printing out or putting them on tapes, just to try to give to someone, to give to Jizza, or to give to Sean Price, to give to Buckshot, which all of this did happen. I'm not just like throwing names out. I did actually give them, CDs.
Yeah, that's wild. I remember like even on the source you could send like the demo tapes in the late 90s. And that brings up a good point because you're based out of the East Coast and then Rascas is based out of the West. So how did that happen? Did you end up sending him something or did you know someone?
So that happened through J211. J211 was really was part of Razzcaz's. They had this group. It was Re-Up,
Okay.
and J211 was an MC. He hadn't released his mixtape yet. I think this was before, but reconnected. This might have been like early MySpace days, I think.
Oh,
It, it,
nice.
it was probably like 2004, 2000. I think it was like 2004. They
Yeah.
reconnected, and he was like, "Yeah, I'm working on some music. I'm cool with Razzcast. If you want to send something, go ahead."
Yeah.
Um, and I don't. I think this was. I was still on dial-up, so I think I might have mailed the CD out to Jay,
Oh
uh,
man.
if I'm not mistaken. And it's funny because that CD circulated quite a bit because it was just like this one beat CD that I had printed up with like 10 beats on there, and then I would circulate it to people. And
Okay.
then those beats went to just like a bunch of different people. One of them went to like Obi Trice and all of that. Um,
That's
but yeah,
awesome.
with Jay got it to Razkaz. Raz uh, did his verse for Long Walk Home. He did another song that didn't come out, but there was another beat on there where I sampled Slayer,
Okay.
which would later become um, "Awaiting the Hour" with Ill Bill and Killer Priest.
Oh
That song
man.
was supposed to be Razkaz, J211, Prodigy, and 40 Glock, who were all supposed to hop on that song, but that didn't happen.
Man, that's amazing, man. And then even like the weight of sending the CD out to Rascast and just not knowing for a couple weeks, and then how'd you finally find out that Rascast used it? Was it it just popped up on the radio or?
Jake emailed me. He
Okay.
emailed me and let me know that Raz had recorded,
Oh
and then
man.
they both did because J211's on the song too. And he sent me like an early mix of it, and I want to say it wasn't an MP3. I think it was Real Player. I don't know if anyone remembers Real Player, but I think it was like it was one of the like Real Player files. Um, and I was like, I mean, like now I think I still have it. Like it's such poor quality, you can't even do anything with it. But I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be dope.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's at that point. Then he emailed me and let me know. I think that segued into that would have been the work that I started doing with MF Grimm too. I think
Okay.
popped up around the time as well.
Man, that's awesome, man. And who were like as you were coming up, were your major influences, man? Were you listening to anybody that man kind of sparked the curiosity into making beats, or just were you interested in music in general and just wanted to try making music?
So, I started out. I was always surrounded by music. My parents had a lot of records. It's one of those things people say, "Oh, when were you introduced to hip hop?" I'm like, it was there when I was born because my parents had Rapper's Delight, and it sounds
Oh,
like a cliche, but it was there, in the house, and they're spinning it. So you're an infant, you're a toddler, you're listening to the beginning stages of hip hop. So it wasn't like, oh, someone passed me a tape, when I was like 10, 15 years old. It
yeah,
was like it was literally there when I was born.
that's
Um,
awesome.
and because I'm old, it was like the first the first commercial hip hop single was, and that's how a lot of us were introduced to hip hop. It wasn't, you know, I wasn't there. I wasn't, in the Bronx. I wasn't there at in the 70s and, you know, really immersed in it. I heard it on the radio. I had the singles. I had, the vinyl singles, the
Yep,
45s, the cassette singles, and that's how, I was introduced to it. And
yep,
while hip hop was a foundation, it wasn't the only genre of music that I was listening to.
that's
So
right. Yeah,
while I was listening to hip hop, I was also listening to a lot of funk. I was also listening to a lot of, you know, we'll go 80s, 90s, a lot of rock to alternative to grunge, metal, um,
yep, metal.
industrial started popping up really through Nine Inch Nails, My Life with the Thrill Kill Cult, Ministry. Um, I mean, like there was a lot of different sounds that started to really formulate the foundation for myself as a producer, and that's really what I took. It wasn't. It was more like I love all of these sounds, and I want to also be able to create my own version of these sounds.
Nice.
And for me, as initially, it was really mostly as a hip hop producer. It was kind of half half. It was hip hop, but then I was really into Big Beat, the Crystal Method, and
Yep,
Moby, and all of those. And I really the Prodigy, not Prodigy, not Prodigy. And I was really into that sound as well. So the music that I was creating in the mid to late '90s was really like a combination of that, where it was really soul based samples, which was really derived from RZA. RZA was probably my biggest influence
I
as
could see
a
that.
young producer. RZA, Muggs. Um, let's see who else. Um, yeah, I mean those were obviously I listened to a lot of hip hop, but you would always go back to who really made the type of production that made you rewind and say, okay, yes, this is dope. Prince Paul
Yep,
definitely was in there.
nice.
So a lot of there was a very specific sound. It was very East Coast based.
Yep,
That I would
I agree.
that I would really gravitate towards because I'm East Coast based. Um, and, you know, I started to take that and just kind of start bringing other sounds in. And that was also in part due to kind of how sound was evolving on the radio, specifically in alternative, um, particularly in the 90s. You know, Beck, for example. Beck was, you know, he's creating music that's alternative, but it's really hip hop. That is, it was Dust Brothers production. You know, the Dust Brothers who did, amazing work on Paul's Boutique. You know, it was really hip hop production, but it was alternative music. Or you had, the Verve with Bittersweet Symphony, where
Yeah.
that's just a sample. I mean, it's a sample. They put drums on it, and it's an alternative song, but it's really at its core, that's hip hop production. As you know,
Okay.
with sampling, we're laying on drums, and it's how music was starting to evolve and how music was starting to pull in different genres into what would essentially be a hip hop foundation is what really kind of set the stage for me.
Man, that's amazing. And as I go into your catalog in a little bit, man, I could tell like the music that you make is so versatile, and just the different genres that you dip in was unbelievable. I didn't realize with that, man. So was it just always producing, or did you try rapping, or was it just strictly making beats? I know.
Yeah, so I did rap for a bit.
Oh man, nice.
But it wasn't. I think it wasn't really my thing, and it's one of those things where, like, I write, I write for other artists and things like that. But
Hmm.
it wasn't my comfort level. I prefer I kind of prefer staying in the shadows, if you will.
Okay.
Um, I prefer being the one who is, kind of crafting that sound and letting other people take the lead, letting other people, you know, being able to, take the sounds that I have in my head and be able to create the vocals, create the lyrics from that.
Yeah.
So it's not, yes, well, I did, it's not something that I would ever go back to do, or it's not, it's just not really my thing, you know.
Yeah. Well, hey, when you got your start, were you still living in Hawaii, or you at that point had you already moved to Virginia,
I
or
was
did you
already,
do some of that?
I was already in Virginia. So when I was in Hawaii,
Okay.
I was much younger. So I was still, I mean, we left, I think when I was 9 or 10,
Okay.
something like that. So I started, I really started diving heavily into hip hop production when I was in high school, which would have been
Okay.
mid '90s. Um, so yeah, that's when I really started to really say, okay, I want to really take what I have in my head and transition that into you know music that other people can
Okay.
appreciate. Because I had played orchestra when I was younger, and I had keyboards and things like that. But I think it's really listening to just how music was evolving. I thought, okay, this could be an opportunity for me to contribute as well.
Okay. Hey, man. And so this is a question that I always love asking folks, is just in general, and this is one I've always wanted to ask you too as well. Was the name Chrome, was Chrome the name from the start of your production history, or how did that name come about? Very interested to hear.
So my initial name was actually High Tech. Um,
Oh, well, oh,
so
right. Yeah.
so it was High Tech. It was, and if I'm not mistaken, I actually spelled it the same way
As high
as High
tech,
Tech
right?
producer.
Oh,
Uh,
crazy.
so I was High Tech until I want to say, because I was in college. I want to say maybe 98, 99, and I think that's when Black Star came out. Black Star came out in 98, maybe it was
Yep.
somewhere around there. Whenever Black Star dropped.
That's right.
Uh, then obviously, you see, produced by High Tech. And I was like, oh, okay, that's not going to work. So I didn't really have a name. But at that time, I was in college and I was going back and forth. I was taking the train back and forth to Maryland from Virginia, and there was a homeless guy on the train who I would talk to a bunch of times. Um, and at one point, I was talking to him about what I do. I was majoring in art. I was talking to him, what I do with with the art, and I was playing him some of my beats, and he said, "Man, one day you're gonna shine like Chrome. You keep doing it, you're gonna shine like."
Oh.
And I was like, "Oh, you know what? That would be a dope name, Chrome." And he was like, "Hey, go with it, go with it." And I was like, "Okay." So that's the origin story of
Yeah, and
Chrome.
I love how you flip the spelling too, right? Yeah,
Yeah, which
using
everyone gets wrong too. So it's one of those things where I don't know if anyone has ever gotten it right the first time, but it's okay. Um,
that's funny you mentioned that because I double checked the spelling of Chrome like 3 times
it's
before we did this interview.
it it, it it happens. I
Yeah.
tried to I tried to make it easier because I made it phonetic. Crow. So it's
Yep.
the Krohme. So I thought it was kind of an easier way to spell it
Yeah.
because obviously you spell Chrome CH,
Right.
and I thought, well, this would be easier because it's the KR K Crow and then OH Crow.
Yep.
But
Yeah, and I like the look of it too, man. So yeah, no, I totally love the name. So that's awesome, man. I love the history behind the name. Hey, so I wanted to go into some of your recent projects, right?
hmm
I spent a lot of time listening to the OTEP album, the
hmm
Godslayer.
hmm
Yeah, the Godslayer album that just came out,
hmm
I think like mid-September. But I know you contributed to the Exit Wounds track and then the Godslayer record.
hmm
And I saw the story about the analog synthesizer you used to make that song and how it got
hmm
messed up,
Yeah,
unfortunately, during the flood.
yeah, the mini
But
moog.
man, yeah, I mean, off the bat, man, I was like, whoa, I had no idea that you were producing that kind of music. And just OTEP is amazing. She, yeah, just does this amazing metal hip hop mix.
hmm
And it was just, very, very dark and just something like real opposite of what I thought the kind of music that you just normally would make.
hmm
And so, yeah, I was just blown away. How did that connection happen? So,
So that happened. So I connected with Tep, maybe what year is this? 2023. I want to say 2018,
oh,
2019,
shoot,
something like that.
for a while
Uh,
now. Yeah.
so through the Keen one from Subliminal Orphans, which was a spin-off group from Be Real. I wouldn't say a spin-off group, but he really helped them um, get off the ground and was instrumental in some of the releases. And in fact, he's on a few of their songs back in the day, early
Yeah.
2000s. Um, so she introduced us, um, which is it's funny because I wasn't really producing that much at the time.
Okay.
Um, I had stepped away from music really about 2014, 2015, and didn't come back until the pandemic. Um,
Oh, shoot.
with Breeze Overflowing. Breeze Overflowing brought me back in. But I wasn't really producing. I was doing a few things off and on, and TEP connected because I had previously worked with Sid Wilson of Slipknot,
Oh,
uh,
man.
Clown, the DJ. So I had produced a song for him in what was that, 2015, 2016, something like that. And she was like, "Oh, I want to connect on something." And she was working on an album. It was Colt 45, um, and there was a song that she wanted me to remix, and we weren't really connecting on the remix.
Okay.
She had a vibe in mind, I had a vibe in mind, and it just it wasn't we weren't gelling. So it happens. Sometimes the visions just don't match up, and we said, well, we'll get back to this. Um, so we had kind of maintain that relationship where I'll send some music, she'll send some ideas, and we didn't really put anything down until she did the the chorus for Warriors theme off of my Ceremony of Innocence album
Oh wow.
with Big Twins and Sabak Red. So she laid down vocals for that, and we started working on the foundation for our own album, which we're still working on. But that was about 2021 when we really started putting down ideas for that. Anyway, she reached out middle of last year because she was
Okay.
working on this out. It wasn't called Godslayer at the time, but she was working on this album, and we initially started working on the California Girls cover, but that didn't work out. So she wanted production for kind of interludes to serve as poetry interludes. So I put together a few things,
Okay.
sent those over to her, and that's what became Exit Wounds and Godslayer. Um, what's
Wow.
interesting is the what became Exit Wounds actually was for the Ceremony of Innocence album. So I had
Oh.
created that, didn't think that the vibe really fit, and actually had it in with Vinny Paz, but pulled it back because I was like,
Oh
I'm not
man,
really,
that's crazy.
thinking this is going to work. So I just kind of
Uh-huh.
had it sitting by the wayside, and then handed it to her, and she was like, hey, this is perfect. Same thing with Godslayer. Godslayer I actually had 4-tep, but I just kind of reworked it. It had drums. The final version does have drums. We ripped out the drums and pulled back some other pieces. So we just kind of kept it kind of really creepy and dark.
Yeah, I
Um,
loved it.
yeah,
Oh, it's wild. You even mentioned Vinny Paz too. I love you some Jedi mind tricks, man.
yeah.
So that is crazy. But yeah, I just again that was the first album that I heard in terms of like metal, and just was just blown away with the different type of music you were doing. And then you also had that project that you did with God Forbid, Tales of the Haunted Microphone 2,
Hmm.
which also was an amazing release. And that, man, I didn't realize that you had gone on a break for like 7, 8 years before
Hmm.
coming back with that Breeze track.
Hmm.
And so, like from then until now, oh man, it's been a wildfire. You've been releasing music like crazy. I'm not even sure how you do it with that amazing. You get busy work and family schedule, so that's quite impressive in its own, man.
Yeah, it's I I tell everyone they're like, oh, I can't find some of your old stuff. I was like, well, that's because it didn't exist. I didn't have anything out there. I didn't start putting anything on streaming platforms. I didn't have an Instagram account. I didn't have, Twitter, Facebook. I didn't have any of that until late 2020, early 2021, something like that.
Yeah,
So I had completely removed myself really from music. Well, I step back. I had completely removed myself as kind of a figure in music. I was doing production here and there, and I would,
okay,
pass beats kind of, off to the side. Um, but I didn't really, want to jump back in until Breeze hit me up, and we actually we did the album. It was Old Man's Spring. So it's a full album that we did during the pandemic because I mean, like, we're not doing anything else. We're all locked down. We're trying to figure out how we're getting toilet paper. Um, so we put that together, and I was like, okay, I could probably do this again. And one of the reasons I step back is, and you said this, is when you have a family, when you have work, when you have a lot of things just going on,
yeah,
you have to be able to prioritize, and you have to figure out the best way to prioritize.
sure,
And for me, with as far as I was getting into music, it was difficult to manage it effectively,
yeah,
and not feel like I was neglecting my family, and that was the big thing. I was getting so immersed in the creation of the music, that I was, taking time away from my family when
Yeah.
I didn't need to. And the big thing for me when I came back was figuring out the best way to prioritize, the best way to effectively manage my time
Okay.
as not only a music producer, but, engineer, uh, artist development, et cetera. All of that, figuring out the best ways to manage my time so that I wasn't taking away from my top priority, which is my family,
Absolutely.
but making sure that I was still able to contribute, not even on the same level as before, because honestly, my output is greater than it was at the time. And it's funny, I rarely make beats. Um, I usually spend the bulk of my time with mixing and really mixing songs, making sure all the pieces are in place.
I can see that.
But that's also because of how I shifted the way I produce music. So what I was doing in the past is, I would sit down for hours. I would go through, records, and I would, pick out the samples, chop them up, and I would go through and kind of have an evolving process of creating the beats, because often the beats that you heard on albums, that you heard on singles, that might have been like version 8.0 of the beat itself. It might have started with that sample, but you're tweaking it. You're like, well, these drums don't work, or this bass doesn't work, or this part of the sample doesn't work. So let me drop something in. So it became a very involved process. And when I stepped away and came back in, I kind of looked at music differently, and I was able to
Okay.
hear music differently. So what I do now is I'll listen to old music, like in the car if I'm driving, taking the kids to activities or going, and doing things, running errands. I'll listen to like old jazz, or I'll listen to older music, that I was planning on sampling, and I'll listen to it as I'm driving, and then I'll hear the spots. So then I'll say, okay, that's what I want, and then I'll come back home, grab the vinyl, chop it from the vinyl, knowing exactly where it is. So
Oh
that way,
man.
when I start working, I already know, okay, I wanted it from, 2 minutes and 35 seconds to
Yep.
2 minutes and 58 seconds. I already have it. I already have the chop in mind. I already have the drums in mind. I already have everything in mind because I've already visualized how I want to create, specifically a hip hop song.
Okay.
Conversely, what I've done with a lot of the other production is I've kind of stepped away from just purely sampling to create the music, and
Yep.
I've brought in other musicians, which is where I wanted to be, 10, 15 years ago,
Sure.
but I didn't because of how established I was as a specific style of producer.
Okay.
And I couldn't see myself kind of, really bringing in these other pieces. Even though I started working them in, it just, I couldn't fully immerse myself in becoming a multi-genre producer, in the 2010s, or
Yeah.
late 2000s, which
Okay.
is where I am now, where, I would say 60, 70% of the songs that I work on, um, sometimes I don't do anything music wise. Like there's nothing I do. I say, I have this idea. I'm going to get this drummer. I'm going to get this guitarist. I'm going to get this bass player. I'm going to get this person play the keys, or maybe I'll play the keys, and we're going to put it all together.
I love
And
it.
and I have this vision. I know they can put it all together, and that's what we're going to craft. And that's when you start to step away from really the definition of a hip hop producer and become what is the traditional producer in a sense, where
Yep.
I don't need to do anything. I don't even have to make a beat. If someone can hand me, a song with someone else's beat, with someone else, doing the vocals, all this, and I can put it together, start building the song, I'm a producer. I While as a hip hop
Yeah.
producer, people say, "Well, you didn't make the beat. You're not a producer." Which is, people do that with, Dr. Dre and Kanye. They say, "Well, he didn't make the beat. He's not the actual producer." It's way more to that than just making a beat. You have to
Yeah.
be able to craft a song, And it's being able to figure out the best way to just structure the vocals, being able to figure out the best way to bring in additional instruments if needed, being able to craft a bridge, being able to really visualize that full song instead of it just being someone spitting, bars, hook, and then that's
Yep.
it.
Yeah, I agree, man. That's a difficult thing in its own, just trying to orchestrate all that. And that's another thing I noticed about you, man. And so, yeah, that the projects have just been amazing. And so, another one that yeah, I really enjoyed was the Round Here single that you did with the legendary MC Search
Search. Hmm.
and Bobby J from Rockaway, who is
Hmm.
another MC I learned about in the last few years, whose flow is amazing. Man, what a smash, man! And I love that combo too, right? Two Rockaway MCs and then you.
Hmm.
Man, you just beat that up. How did that track come about?
So that was actually a remix. So Round Here, Search and I connected back in 2006, 2007
Oh, way back.
for the original version of Round Here. And I dug it back up during the pandemic, and I said, you know what, we should probably push this back out. Let me redo the beat,
Okay.
and I did it with the what became the final beat. I sent it over to Search, and he was like, "Oh, Chris, I love this." Like
Yes, indeed.
he's like, "This is so crazy, but I want to redo my verse." And I said, "Okay." So he redid his verse, and he was like, "Well, I can only get as far as the first verse, so we're gonna have to figure out like a hook and a chorus." I said, "I got the perfect person." Because I had just worked with Bobby J on Ceremony because he was
Yes,
on the song with
sick.
Kwame.
Uh-huh.
And I was
Huh.
like, well, hold on, let me reach out to Bobby J and see if we can put this all together. And Bobby killed it. Of course he did because he's
Yes.
amazing. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
he came back and I was like, yes, this is it. This is perfect. And there was a lot of back and forth
Okay.
because I'll say this as understanding Search creatively. You have to remember this was Search's first single in 27 years.
Oh, yeah.
So it
Sure.
was important for him to make sure that it sounded right, and when he came back out, that this was the best possible representation of him, musically and creatively. So there was a bit of a back and forth with the
Oh,
song. Not
not surprised.
not in terms of the production. We kept the production. The production didn't really change.
Okay.
But just really making sure, he would come back and say, "Oh, I want to
Yep.
redo this. I want to redo this part. I want to redo that." And you have to be patient. You have to let creatives be creative and explore the space. And we did that. We pushed it out. We filmed the video in Rockaway
Super
on the
dope.
rooftop with DJ Clips was there, a bunch of other people there. Um, so it was a positive release. I'm glad we were finally able to get that out because I really wanted to have it have Search be able to put music out again.
Yeah.
He was and he's released another single. He released It's Just a Vibe.
That's
Um,
right. The summer bouncy track, man. And I was
yeah,
going to mention that too, which I really enjoyed.
yeah. So he pushed that out. So it kind of helped him kind of reinvigorate his drive for the music, and I was proud to be a part of that, and be able to put all this together. Um,
Yeah, I didn't realize that you were the dude that kind of sparked his return. And yeah, I'm not surprised that the track has to be the right track if you're coming back after such a long hiatus. And man,
mhm.
super props to you, man, for bringing the legend back on a hot track, man. I
Yeah,
really love that song.
yeah. It's I made that. I had always, I created that beat specifically for that song. So I'm glad that we were able to really see that through from start to finish, because it was one of those things where I didn't know if we would actually ever release it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that it's out. People loved it. The video's out. People have been watching it. So I'm happy for that.
Awesome, man. And I hope you get to do more music with Bobby J. I just I learned about him during the pandemic, and he did
Hmm.
this like this verse over the House of Pain beat, and
Hmm.
I was like, "Oh, this guy is amazing!" And I just kind of been following ever since. So I hope to
Yeah.
see some Chrome and Bobby G tracks in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I talk to Bobby all the time. It's just he just
Yeah.
had his baby, so it's and I need to send him some more music, but I just been completely swamped with everything else. But
Oh,
we'll get back to it.
totally understandable. Another hip hop single that I really enjoyed was the Black Modine single featuring Smith and Wesson called "Hands of
Mm.
Time."
Hmm.
That beat super dope. Again, into the cuts that you got by DJ Slipwax were amazing too. Was that about the same time you did that song, or was that quite an older beat that you guys used? That was another banging single you guys have.
No, that one I made that one on the spot. So Yusuf reached out and said, "Oh, we want to remix Hands of Time with Smith and Wesson for this project that we're doing. And would you be down?" I said, "Yeah, of course. Just send it over."
Mhm.
Um, so they sent it over, um, and I say this all the time when I do remixes. If I haven't heard the original song, the I won't listen to it. I won't listen to the actual the beat for the original song, um, simply because I don't want to put myself in that mindset of
Okay.
the producer who created it, the original producer, and kind of create something that follows along that same path. So what I do every single time is I listen to the acapella first, which is actually what I did with your song, which is because I listened to the acapella first, and I listen to the tone, I listen to the tempo, and I'm able to kind of hear the tempo in my head, able to hear a vibe, and I say, okay, I got what I want. Let me try to create something for it. And what I usually do is with remixes, I'll create alternate versions. So I'll have like a vibe in mind. And I'll start putting the music together for that. This one in particular, I had just heard the sample that I was going to use for it. I didn't have a lot of time, so I didn't work with any outside musicians. I had heard the sample, um, and I said, okay, that's going to be perfect. I know how to chop it. I know what type of drums I want to put on that, and I put it all together. I didn't even do an alternate version of that remix. I had started to, but I was like, nah, it's not going to work. Like this is it right here. This is perfect for it. Yeah, we pushed that out. I I don't remember. I think the record's somewhere around here.
Oh
But it's
man.
one of those where I just love the way it all started to come together, just all
Yep.
the different pieces. And if you start listening to it, and this is one thing that I'm really big on, and I told a few really massive producers, I'm kind of the anti Rick Rubin in the sense, in that he would always reduce, and I try to add as many textures as possible.
Okay.
So when you listen to the songs that I produce, I want you to start to listen to different pieces throughout the song through
Okay.
repeated listens. So the first time through, you might be listening to the lyrics. Second time through, you might be hearing, oh, you might hear the bass and maybe some guitars. Third time through, you might hear, these keys in the right ear. Fourth time through, you might hear, congas in the left ear. So I try to layer in all these different textures that you might
Yeah.
not notice initially listening to a song. You have to go back and listen. And it's one of those things that I've really been big on, just really kind of creating an immersive listening experience. You know, when you're hearing the music, it's not just you know vocals and drums and bass. There's a whole lot more going on that I
Yeah.
want people to really take time and listen to.
Yeah, it's that mood that you create, and so I mentioned it earlier in the interview, and I want to surface it up now. I really have to credit you on your versatility, right? So I've known you as a hip hop producer, and then as I dived into your catalog, I found that OTEP album, which is a metal hip hop combo.
Hmm.
And then I hear your work on the Colton Schneiderman track, the Aaron Beach song reprise that you
Hmm.
released this past August, which is totally different from those two genres. And again, it was another amazing track, man. So I just, again, it was surprise after surprise, and it was great. And one thing that was consistent throughout, and ever since I've known you, is the way that you mix music in general,
Hmm.
right? So I feel like when I listen to a Krohme track, everything hugs each other real well,
Hmm.
if that makes sense. But this includes like when you remix and reprise tracks, right? So
Hmm.
what I mean with that is that when I'm listening to folks that remix a track, sometimes I can tell like my ear can catch when the verse is a little bit off, right? It's not too
Hmm.
bad, but it just doesn't hug the beat well, right?
Right.
And so that was something that I noticed when you did the Red Sunset track. Was
Hmm.
like I was like, man, like you can't tell. It's just like it was perfect. Everything hugged each other, and it was it just like it sounded real smooth to me. And so that's something too when I listen for remixes is how well everything complements each other. I think you're
Right.
really good at that, man.
It's one of those things where I like, a lot of individuals our age, who, the Gen Xers, we came up with remixes, just not just hip hop remixes, but multi-genre remixes. I mean, like
Yeah.
you listen, on the radio, like there's a Madonna remix, or there's a, there's this remix, there's this remix. So we came up in an era where remixes were a big thing, and remixes would essentially reinvent a song and kind of give it a completely different atmosphere, completely different direction
That's right.
that doesn't detract from the original. And that's one thing that I'm big on. I'm not trying to take anything away from the original song or the original producer, even if the original producer is myself.
Yep.
What I want to do is kind of create an alternate version
Yep.
of that experience. And it's important to me that it does feel cohesive, that it doesn't feel like I've just slapped a beat on there and had the vocals on and then that's it.
Yep.
Because it's important that it sets it kind of sets alone as a unique piece of art,
That's right.
that it's not just something that I'm making, yeah, this is just a remix I'm making. I want it to be you know something that you can listen to separately and appreciate alongside the original. So that's,
Yeah.
you talked about the song with Caitlin. um, I'll jump into Caitlin real quick.
Okay.
So she did vocals for a song that Age of Ruin, that Age of Ruin
Oh.
did. Age of Ruin is a metalcore band. They're based out of Virginia. Calm Bomb released their most recent EP, Thieves. But Caitlin did vocals on the title track, actually. And I met her actually. I saw on Facebook this morning that it was last year today. I was at the show, and while I was there, the sound man got sick, and I handled the sound and mixing for them. And I was like, anyway, she had an incredible voice, and I looked into her music because Daniel the Fleming, the guitarist for Age of Ruin, said check out her music. And Air Beach song, the reprise, um, if you listen to the original, it's a very folk song. It's a beautiful song. But it's she's playing the guitar. It's acoustic guitars and drums, and it's a very Americana folk song. And I wanted to say, okay, I love this song, so let me see how I can take this and bring it into kind of a different sound.
Yep.
And what we did and this is with Matt Scott, we kind of crafted this soulful, kind of like a neo soul vibe for it, which is like a complete shift from the original song. The original song was folk. We went kind of a soulful vibe with it, and it works. It still works. But
Absolutely.
that's what I had in my head, and I told him, I was like, this is I have this vision for the song, and I want to see if we can kind of put this together to see how all of this sounds.
Yeah.
Sometimes it doesn't work out. In this case, it did work out.
Oh, worked great, man. And so again, just like I said, it was like landmine after landmine. I just kept blowing my head just every time I was hearing all these different types of music you were doing. Another example too is that remix you did with UK's Blind Orbit on the Killer Priest track too, "The Day of
Hmm.
the Dead." Was just again another one. And so, did you have a little bit of background on that one?
So Blind Orbits, okay. Blind Orbits, the front man for Blind Orbits is Martin Orton, who is also the graphic designer Poison Pen.
Oh,
Poison Pen did the cover art for MC Search's Round Here single.
oh
Uh,
shoot, man.
so he also was doing work for Search's podcast. I forget the name of it. It's okay. Um, so when Search was putting out, when we were getting ready to put out the singles, Martin was sending me the cover art and everything. And I was like, oh, this is amazing. You're an incredible, designer. Somehow, we got to talking about music, which naturally we would be talking about music. But he had mentioned that he had previously been the frontman for a shoegaze band, Jesus Deluxe. And I said, "Oh, that's amazing. I love shoegaze. Um, been a big fan ever since. I heard Mazzy Star. When they popped up on MTV with why can't I remember the song? Faded to You, right?
Okay.
Yes. Um, so he mentioned that he had fronted a shoegaze band, and I said, I'd love to to work with you guys, work with you guys on something. At the same time, he was getting into kind of creating music again with some of the members from Jesus Deluxe, Matt Flood
Gosh.
and Dave Speedy. Um, so they were starting to put music together, and I said, I have this remix that just came into my inbox for Killer Priest.
Oh man.
I don't want to do what everyone is expecting me to do with this, where I go grab some records, chop it up, and throw some drums
Yep.
on. I want to do something different. I want to kind of create an experience with this remix. So I'm going to bring in Blind Orbits. I'm going to bring in the shoegaze band from Coventry, UK, and I want you guys to do what you do within, you know, wrapping around Priest vocals, and that's what they did. They created the sound for that. I gave them, mild direction here and there. But that whole there's a point in the song when it hits a crescendo, and then it just stops. It goes, and then it
Yep.
starts again. It does a tape stop, and then it starts again, and then it's essentially the song replaying again. The first time it was Killer Priest. Killer Priest is doing his verse.
Yep.
It does the chorus, and then tape stop. It starts again with Martin singing. So it's essentially two different songs,
Yep.
and then it comes together again right where the first part of the song ended, right at that crescendo. It picks up again, and then it brings you to the final part of the song with the final chorus, with all of the instruments, with the horns and everything. I think that was the first time we had Dave's father playing the trumpet. Dave's father
Oh,
is 80 years old, so he was playing on
sick.
that. So it was really kind of creating this unique experience with the remix.
Yeah.
And I said, I want to bring it. And they actually we just released their EP, The Time to Tide, that came out Friday,
Oh, I
and
gotta
that's
check
that's
that
streaming
out.
everywhere. So The Time to Tide
Sick.
is the title song. There's Reborn, which is the B side, and then we included an extended version of the Day of the Dead reprise on there as
Oof.
well.
Very cool, man. And so, yeah, I just, yeah, with that, just all the different work that you do with, all these amazing artists too. I wanted to also highlight the work that you do in terms of like mentoring and helping up and coming artists too as well. I see you always on your IG page, just willing to help
Mhm.
with like mixing or just wanting to support other artists by purchasing their albums and getting it out. So that was one thing that I really dig about you, man. It isn't just you're not stuck in like, hey, I'm only going to work with you if you're dope, and it's yeah, it's something that we're missing a lot these days. Just folks willing to help each other out, man. And for someone with a resume like yours to do some of the things that you're doing, like, man, that's amazing, man. I don't see how anybody could hate Chrome. And and I wanted to thank you for that, man.
Yeah.
And just even like the money that you raised too for all these different charities. I'll say most recently too, you did a shout out for trying to raise some money towards the Maui relief efforts. You
That's right.
mentioned your deep island ties, as I know you
Hmm.
spent some time growing up in Oahu,
Hmm.
and then even just like the record labels that you started, right? So can we get into Calm Bomb Collective, the collective record label that was a platform that you started to help showcase other people's amazing work?
Yeah, Calm Bomb, it's difficult for me to refer to it as a record label because in a
Yeah.
traditional sense, I wouldn't really define it as that. In that,
Okay.
I don't I don't want to be a record label owner.
Okay.
I don't want to have anything to do with your money. I don't want to have anything to do with any of the financial aspects of running a label. What I wanted to do with Calm Bomb, and I still do, is that we kind of create a community, if you will,
Okay. Nice.
of artists of all different genres who are supporting each other, and we're getting there. But it's really you don't have to be you don't have to release music through Calm Bomb. You don't have to have
Mhm.
anything to do with Calm Bomb. But if you're part of, well, I take that back. If you're part of the collective, if you're part of the community, then you're appreciating the releases that other artists are pushing out. So
I like that.
with Blind Orbs coming out, you could have someone, a hip hop artist in Boston, he was part of the Calm Bomb collective, all of a
Sure.
sudden listening to, a shoegaze band in Coventry, UK, and, they're digging it because, it's part of this community. They're like, hey, I would have never listened to it if it wasn't for, you bringing everyone together.
Yeah.
And that's really what I'm trying to do with Calm Bomb. Yes,
Okay.
we do distribute music, but I keep everything in the hands of the musicians, the
That's
artists, the
awesome.
MCs themselves. Um, at the same time, we also help you. And you mentioned this. We help you through that journey. So there's people that
Yep.
I talk to daily who have questions about just the music industry in general, and
Yeah.
the best way that they can release music, the best way that they can be successful in their
Sure.
career. And I I offer, as much guidance as I can because I want everyone to be successful.
That's
I
awesome.
think we're at a point now where it's it's important for me to make sure everyone who wants to have a voice has that voice,
That's
and they
awesome.
have an opportunity to get their art out there and have their art be heard by as many people as possible. Um, you know, Early 2000s Chrome definitely would not have done that.
Mm.
I would have said, no, I'm only working with, I'm only working with Razzcast. I'm only working with Method Man.
Yep.
I'm only working with, X, Y, and Z.
Sure.
Um, as you get older, as become, a much more mature
Yep.
individual, you realize, look, everyone needs these opportunities.
Yep.
It's not my place to say, and this is one thing you learn, just through your own maturation process, that what you believe is dope isn't necessarily what someone else might believe is dope. So,
100%, man.
I could, create something that, create the most amazing, song ever and put it out, and people be like, yeah, that's garbage. I hate it. And I'm like, wow. And I thought that was, but, you realize art is subjective, and what someone else may not like, someone else will. But honestly, at the end of the day, none of that matters because it's only important that you are the one who fully appreciates and loves the
That's
work that
it,
you
man.
created.
Absolutely,
So
man.
if you are happy with what you created, it doesn't really matter what other people are saying.
I
And
agree.
I say, look, I love that you are creating that art. I want to help make sure other people can appreciate that, and I'm here to help as many people as possible.
Yeah, and I can see that the community appreciates that, man. So just it's a wide call, and you offer yourself, and your accessibility to the hip hop community is ridiculous, man. I'll tell you that for one thing, man. And just all the feedback that I get and read is just it's very awesome to see. So I appreciate that, and I love how you've evolved and just the maturity process along the way. And is that Mustafa Shakir project too? Is that under the Calm Bomb label too as
Yes,
well?
yeah, we
Okay.
pushed that out. So we pushed out
Yep.
Mustafa's album Harlem Boy Biopic. We
Yep.
pushed that
Which
out
is dope.
August 28th. Yeah.
That's right.
So that came out. Incredible project. Goldfingers brought that my way.
Yeah.
We connected through a producer showcase on CDOC's show
Okay.
that we did a year and a half ago, something like that. I don't remember.
Uh-huh.
Um, but he said, yeah, I'm working with, Mustafa Shakir.
Yep.
Um, and, he's got this, he's been rhyming, he's got a project coming out, would you be interested in helping us put it out? And I said, I'll do my best.
Nice.
That's what we've been doing. So, in addition to handling the release, we've been serving as marketing and A&R
Yep.
um, for not just Mustafa, but everyone else. But we've been making sure he's getting interviews, making sure we get radio placements, all of that. So it's been pretty. It's a shift, but it's part of what I really want to do with Calm Bomb, and that's being able to create I said a community, but really kind of create a platform for all
Yep.
these different artists and all these different genres to be successful. And it started with Age of Ruin, really being able to kind of help them put out that Thieves EP and being able to reach out to all the different radios and blogs, websites,
Yep.
magazines, et cetera, to help them with the release and make that successful.
Yeah, I saw that in some cases you guys have covered the cost of physical pressing of a project, and again you mentioned it too earlier. Just you guys make calls of support to cover social media advertising for different projects,
Mhm.
so that's pretty dope. And then I'll have to shout out your boy. I don't know if I'll pronounce his name correctly, but Ivan Baum, who did the logo for Combo, which is
Mhm.
super dope, man. Oh, dude, that's a dope T-shirt for sure. So super cool.
Yeah, we have a few different versions, but yeah,
Okay.
I love the logos, and I really wanted, obviously, like I said, it's still evolving, but I
Yeah.
really wanted to kind of create a vibe for it that wasn't a specific genre. I didn't
Yeah.
want people to step in and say, oh, this is just hip hop, so I don't feel like I belong here. I wanted to kind of create a kind of a non-denominational community,
Yeah.
if you will, of musicians and artists, and that kind of starts with the logos and the way we handled the music that we push out, and the way we handle the releases. Like I said, it's still it's a learning process. We just started this. I mean, the
Yeah.
first project was the beat tape. Yeah, no words, just love. I guess I happen to
Which
have
I
that.
own. It's super dope.
Um, so that was the start of it. And I think that was last year,
Yep.
but maybe November, December last year, or something like that.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't. I'm getting old, so I don't remember dates anymore.
Hey, but you got, I mean, the experience that you have with God Sending and then Calm Bomb, and then you did some stuff with Baby Grande. And then, you got some work that you've done with Man Bites, and then most recently Spit Slam Records too, which you guys had that super single legacy project that you guys dropped a couple weeks ago. which had another, again, just an amazing roster of folks. Daddy-O, Cool Kim, Chill Rob G.
Hmm.
Oh man, and Aaron Willis of 311, right?
Hmm.
Just and I think Speech is Speech on that album, or
Yeah, so
yeah,
we haven't dropped Legacy yet,
okay,
but it's the title song Legacy. Yes,
yep,
it's Daddy O, Cool Kim, Chill Rob G, and Peanut of 311. Peanut is playing bass on there as well as the keys. Um, the B side is Come Together Now, which is a non-album cut. It's an older song that I added the Impossibles on it.
okay,
They're Chuck, they're a Chuck D
sure,
affiliate group.
yep,
The third song on there is the reprise of Circle of Lies, which
okay,
um, is also Impossibles with Chuck D. But I also brought in Caesar of Ministry, the industrial band Ministry, to do the guitars on that.
okay,
So what I had envisioned for that is kind of like an early '90s Judgment Night type soundtrack vibe for that specific song. And I was like, I need to have like a really dope guitarist come in and do this. So I reached out to Caesar Ministry and we tackled that.
wow,
Circle of Lies was actually the first song that I did with, they weren't even Spit Slam at the time. I think they were Slam Jams at that time.
okay,
This might have been like 2005, 2006. So when you hear the song, obviously you hear a lot of references to uh, Bush, Senior and Junior. In the lyrics, there's a lot of references to Bin Laden, because that's when that song is from. It's from that time period. So I brought that back as a non-album cut for Legacy, which is it's essentially a maxi single. It's the same thing I did with Line of Fire. Line of Fire was the
yep.
first single off of the forthcoming album, which I still don't really have a name for. But that song had Brother Ali, Chuck D, Speech, and Doug Wimbish of Living Color on
Yeah,
that one.
yeah. So the full project was dropping sometime this month, or at least targeted for this month.
Yeah,
But yeah,
no.
yeah. Oh, okay.
I mean,
uh,
I'll drop the single. Yeah, the
yeah.
single is done. I passed that off to C
Okay.
Doc a couple days ago. So
Okay.
we should start getting all of that going. I'll set up pre-orders shortly, but
Yeah,
um,
that's exciting.
yeah, that's done. Um,
Yeah. Planet Asia, I'm a big fan. California MC,
yes,
Fresno,
yeah. So he's on
super sick.
Chase Infinite and PA are on the physical only copies. So there's a remix of Legacy with Chase and Planet Asia, and that's
Whew.
only on CDs and tape.
Nice. Yep. And then Speech from Arrested Development, who I'm gonna go see live next week. They'll be performing in Hawaii, so I'm
Oh,
pumped to see
nice.
that show.
Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, no, I love, obviously, if you're a certain age, you grew up, listening to Arrested Development on the radio. So being able to work with, and I say this, you know, as a fan first, it's been incredible being able to work with, all these legends, all these, individuals that, I grew up listening to,
Yeah.
you say, yeah, the first tape that I ever received was Public Enemy's Nations. It takes a nation of
Uh,
millions to hold us back,
yeah.
and to be able to work with Chuck. I remember, playing, Arrested Development's, tape, and to be able to work with Speech. We actually just knocked out an EP. We did
Oh
yeah.
man,
Um,
crazy.
that's I have to wait till they get back from tour until we
Yeah.
wrap that up. But that's done. I actually have Peanut of 311 on that on another song on there too. So he's on that, and Caesar is also of Ministry. So it's a song with Arrested Development, 311, and Ministry. It's a crazy mix, but it all comes together. Um,
Yeah. I love how you appreciate that, and I share the same sentiment too. With the opportunity to work with you too as well, on the Red Sunset remix, and then the track that we did with Ye Soul, out of Korea, female MC who's super dope, which I think you have a great eye too of identifying talent. She's another awesome MC too.
Definitely. We need to wrap up that EP. But we just we have that single that I really want to get out. I actually, um, I need to actually I sent her the mix, but there's a single that I want to push out, just with her on it, because
Yeah,
she's rhyming all in Korean,
I love
um,
it.
and I really want to get that back out and circulating. I was I wanted to do the international project, which was one thing that I I've, I was a little. I wouldn't say disappointed with the response, but I guess I should say it was to be expected.
Hmm.
When you release a hip hop song for a primarily English speaking audience with MCs who are not rhyming in English, there's going to be a challenge.
Yeah,
With her and Korean and yourself in Tagalog, it was I had this vision for creating something that had never been done before, and it hasn't. Like no, that doesn't exist. Like that's not something that exists, and that's one thing I think I want to. I this is probably like an offline conversation, but at the
yeah,
same time we're having it right now. It's one of those things where I want to repackage that song and kind of figure out a different way to push that back out so that it's
sure.
it's better appreciated. Because I think for lack of a better word, it went over a lot of heads.
Yeah,
Just the just what exactly we were all doing with this song. For people
sure.
to say, "Hold on a second, wait, there's a lot going on here that actually has never existed before."
Yeah,
So it's one thing where I want to make sure that with the music, not only do I provide opportunities and I make sure as many you know people can listen to the different artists that reach out or that I reach out to. But I also first and foremost want to kind of expand the minds, the palette of music listeners, which is
yeah,
why I bring in so many different genres when I'm
yeah,
crafting the music. I really want to open it up, and that goes
yeah,
back to the music that I was listening as at the start of this, in the really the early 90s, just that all these different sounds being thrown in at the same time
yeah,
and being able to balance it and appreciate it and not say, well, I'm just solely listening to hip hop. No, I wasn't just solely listening to hip hop.
yeah,
You're listening to hip hop. You're also, I'm listening to, Lenny Kravitz. I'm listening to Massive Attack. You're listening to all these different, sounds that are coming in, and that's what lays the foundation for, obviously not only Krohme as a producer, but
yep.
Combat Collective.
Yeah, I wanted to go back to the point where we were talking about the counterpoint track that we did with Ye Soul. And what I love too is that so Ye Soul is an MC who is about our age too,
Mhm.
and was really a pioneer in Korean hip hop too. And that too being a female too is amazing in itself. Where she represented for dope two different streams.
Right.
And so what I love too was the song that we did and the song that you produced and pushed out got her some international exposure, man. That was crazy. She got hit up by a lot of people too, and she
Yep.
was getting interviews out of the UK. So I'm super pumped that the world knows about her music, and yeah, I just appreciate you sharing that and getting her out there. She's definitely grinded and put in her time,
Yeah.
and she's an amazing MC who doesn't need us at all. But
No, no.
but that's so dope that you got her into different parts of the world. That was great.
I mean that came from you. I mean you introduced us, and she was incredible. I mean you sent, it was a YouTube link, and I was like, wow.
That's yeah,
I was
yeah,
I was like, wow. I was completely blown away.
yeah,
She's
for
she's
sure.
amazing. I was like, oh, we have to get her on this. I was just just make the connection happen. So I'm
So I love it.
that's all thanks to you. Being able to bring her to my attention. If I could do anything to have other people hear
Yeah,
her music, then I'm happy. But
yeah,
that really started with you as the introduction, and obviously she's an incredible MC.
Yep.
incredibly talented. Um, and this goes back to, I really want people to fully appreciate music. Just because you don't know what someone is saying,
Yep.
that doesn't mean you just completely write it off. And, I really want people to, if anything, just appreciate music, for the craftsmanship, for the talent, for everything involved in the creation of it, even if you don't speak the same language, because music in itself is a language, and that should be what you are embracing.
Yeah, I love it, man, and I can't wait, man. I got the sneak preview of the Chrome Yeso single too, which is fire. So I can't wait till that materializes, man.
Yep. Hopefully soon. She just need her to email me back. It was really, I went really dusty 90s with it. I had a vision for
That's
the
my
song.
that's my
So
John, man. Yep.
I was like, yeah, I was like, this is going to work for this.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, let's get into something really special, man. So again, I've told you just time and time again on our offline conversations, and even here earlier many times. I'm really touched by all the work that you do to just help folks out. And so one thing that I really love that you do is the work that you do to spread awareness and the money that you try to raise and try to grow acceptance and support for the autism community,
Mhm.
man. I remember back in April, which is Autism Awareness Month, you offered again your musical service where you try to raise some money and just
Mhm.
you try to promote inclusion and connectedness for people with autism, man.
Right.
I love that, man. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. So, obviously, a lot of this work started even before my son was diagnosed. So, a lot of the work that I've been doing with charities actually started back in the early 2000s,
Okay.
um, really making sure that I was using the music to kind of benefit other communities, um, benefit those who were really in need. And that started I actually started in 2007 when I was supporting a nonprofit called Bright Beginnings. They provide um, really services for women and children in the DC area who were unhoused. So that's where a lot of this started.
Okay.
The transition to really focusing on really autism awareness and acceptance began actually before my son was diagnosed, but making sure that um, I was doing all I could to support the
Yeah.
community as I was doing a lot of the research at the time, I started to come across peers who also were um, autism fathers. Or I would come across individuals who were neurodivergent creatives. And as I started to see this community evolving, and as I was fully you know transitioning into becoming an autism dad, and realizing how awful the resources are um, for individuals needing that assistance, for whether you're within the special needs community. um,
Yeah.
it was important for me to do what I could to not only make people aware of the community, but also make sure we were raising money to benefit those who needed it,
Yes.
families, individuals who needed it, much more than we did. And that's really what I've been doing. So a lot of the work that I've been doing personally, as well as through Combom, is really highlighting some of the, not only the nonprofits, but also the creatives, whether they are neurodivergent or they are parents of children who are autistic, really being able to kind of give them a spotlight, but at the same time being able to highlight those nonprofits
Yeah.
and raise awareness for them and help bring additional revenue their way so they continue to
That's right.
do positive work within their local community as well as national and global. One of the big nonprofits I work with, they're not big, but big as in my involvement with them would be Punks for
Yep.
Autism. Um,
Yep.
Um, I do I do a lot of work with PFA. I love what they do. I'm a big fan of what they stand for because I stand for the same thing. Um, Real quick, Punks for Autism, what they do is they are a nonprofit. They're a nonprofit 501c3 that works with artists to create really t-shirts, sweatshirts that they then take those profits from and they give it to local and national autism focused charities.
That's
So
amazing.
anytime you buy a shirt or a hat or I think there's a Punks for Autism hat over there. Anytime you buy any of their merch, it goes directly to additional charities that are
Okay.
doing work within the autism community.
Yeah, which I'll have to highlight too is the the recent project you did, the Snapcase reprise of New
Yes.
Kata
Hmm.
on the special edition 7 inch with that, which that one you guys did to raise some money for Punks for Autism, right?
We did. The
Yep.
splits, 100% of that, 100% of streaming splits goes directly to PFA,
Amazing.
um, as well as all of the sales from the 7 inch. Hold on, I have one around here.
Awesome, man.
Give me a second, my earbuds came out. We have the single.
I love it, man.
And Mark Romanek, the legendary uh, director, did the artwork. The
That's
guy who
awesome,
did,
man.
Nine Inch Nails Closer, he did a million other things. 1 Hour Photo, the movie with Robin Williams. Yeah, he did the artwork. Um, so and we also did the Punks for Autism. We did a compilation album that also was 100% for Punks for Autism.
That's awesome, man.
So I try to do what I can with you know my connections, with my platform, with my skill set to benefit really a larger community because it
Sure.
becomes it's not just about me. It's about work that I'm doing that benefits not Krohme the producer, but it benefits Chris Moore, the dad. It benefits all of the other parents and guardians out there. It benefits
Yeah.
the individuals who are neurodivergent. Those in the special needs community. It benefits
Yeah.
everyone through the work that we're doing, and that's really what I want to continue to do. And I've been doing this for a few years now. But that's really what my focus has been. It's really, let's make as much dope music as possible
Yeah.
that can benefit, you know, a larger community.
Yeah, I love it, man. Just people taking care of people, man. And again, I just want to applaud you for that and just your work again. We're trying to help the community achieve optimal health and just, helping them reach their full potential. So
Yeah.
that's amazing, man. Mad props to you, brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, with that, I know. So, an offshoot of that too, you talked about potentially continuing to share the word through your podcast that you have in the works. Is that going to materialize too? Let's talk
Yeah.
about the A word. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the A word. It's one of those things where I I have everything ready for it. I just kind of have to put myself in that mindset for it because
Sure.
I'm not, I said this at the beginning, I'm not the type of person who wants to be in front of the camera. I'm not the person who wants to get, kind of be in the spotlight. But at
Mm-hmm.
the same time, it's one of those things where I kind of have to move past that. And, because I don't believe anyone but myself can really do what I have in mind for it. It's the same thing
Sure.
as a producer. You have what you've envisioned in your head for this, and it's not just talking to individuals who are autistic or talking to parents, autism parents.
Yeah.
It's really being able to kind of learn and grow from this, myself. And yes, I do plan on starting it. I'll probably start it next week.
Yeah.
Um, but it's one of those things where it's just like I just kind of gotta hype myself up for it. But I have there's a lot of people that have reached out and who have offered to
Yep.
be guests. Um, a lot of from different levels, from super high, A-list, celebrities to friends next door type of connections. So there's a lot of
Yeah.
people that I want to talk to so that we can um, talk about the A word, autism, and really be able to offer resources,
That's
um,
it.
not just for the community, not just for individuals who are neurodivergent and for parents and guardians, but also for individuals, everyone outside of that,
Okay.
so that we again focus on uh, not just um, awareness, but specifically acceptance.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'm always on my toes waiting for the next Chrome project, and this is pretty exciting. So I'm looking forward to that. And so, we just spent about an hour talking about music, and a couple times you've indicated that you're a big family man, and I've known you for the 3 years now, and I love it, man. You're an amazing dad, man. Very involved with your family. So, what do you like to do outside of music? Just any specific things that you love to do with your family? I know you're very involved in the activities that they do.
Yeah, that takes up a lot of time.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
because
sure.
when you have four kids, it's a lot of it it revolves around their activities and their interests, and
That's
now
right.
it's um, a lot of it, a lot of what we do. You have to remember, as with my youngest being autistic, it's always important to make sure that the environments that we go into, that the situations that um, we put him in, don't create tension, don't create any potential issues for him, because he's
Sure.
very sensitive to sounds. He's very sensitive to crowds, to enclosed spaces, and with him being nonverbal, he can't really communicate other than through um, crying or yelling or getting upset. And it's important for us to find a balance with what we do, on the weekends, and make sure that, it's usually, if we go out, we go to parks and playgrounds, things like that.
Yep.
Um, but there's a lot of situations that we have to work into, just because he's not quite ready for
Okay.
those environments yet. So it's really, a lot of it is just um, kind of helping. It kind of splits. My older children will go, and they'll go to the mall, and they'll go to this place and that place, and my youngest and I, we might do things separately. We'll go to a park, or we'll do things around the house, just because of where he currently is at that
Yeah.
time. um, and we're working to get to a point where we can start doing things, kind of larger ventures, larger trips, together as a family.
Hmm.
Uh, and it's a process. It takes time figuring out the best way to travel with him, the best way to um, really make sure he has everything he needs, not
Sure.
just diet wise, but also with um, all of his his electronics and things like that, just to make sure that he is taken care of, and we have everything in a position for him, so that when we're at an amusement park, for example, when we get to that point, that it's a pleasant experience for him, and it's not a complete nightmare, and he hates everything. We try to make sure everything he's as comfortable as possible in those situations, and it's just really building up to that.
Yeah, man. Hey, I really admire just the love and dedication that you have for your family. So awesome, man. Well, hey, man. Also, too, I would truly regret it if I didn't mention that Chrome, as well as myself. is a big fan of Korean drama.
That's right. That's right. Right.
Yeah, man. Hey, I love that. That was like the best surprise ever. We were talking hip hop stuff. I don't even know how it came up, man.
I I don't
So,
I don't remember. It's just it's one of those random things where it just
yeah.
somehow was a segue into. It was Squid Game. I think it might
Oh,
have been.
baby,
I think
baby. Yeah,
I think it might have been with Squid Game was popping.
it was because I was in Korea, right?
Right,
And
right,
yeah.
yeah, okay, and then we were talking about it. I was like, yeah, I watched like not just K dramas, but I actually started with a Japanese drama, Good Morning Call, uh,
Oh, okay.
which was, and I keep telling you, you should watch that.
Me too, man.
I
Yeah.
think it's on Netflix. But we started watching that. I don't know. I want to say 7, 8 years ago, something like that. I don't even know how I stumbled across it. I watched like the first episode, and my wife. I told my wife about it because I think she might have been on a trip. And I told her about it. She was like, "Why are you watching this?" Like, it's, like that's not something you because usually I'm watching you know, people getting blown up and explosions,
Yeah.
movies and all that. She's like, "Why are you watching?" It's like this soap opera essentially. Um, I was like, "No, it's actually really good." I was like,
Yeah.
and then we got fully immersed in it. We watched the whole thing. Then we watched the second season, which wasn't as good, but it was how it usually is. But then yeah, that I think actually I watched that. No, I take it back actually. So that while that was the first drama that I watched, I started watching that because I was watching Terrace House at the time.
Oh, yeah, yeah, the
Uh,
reality show, right?
right.
Yeah.
So
Uh-huh.
we were watching Terrace House, and I think that came up as a recommendation,
Okay.
and I was like, let me check this out, and that's what started it. So it really started with Terrace House, way 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 back when. Um,
Oh, that's wild, man. And I'll say for the record, we've had conversations. We're not talking about music,
right.
just Korean dramas, man. So I really love that, man. That was like a pleasant surprise, man. And so, yeah, that was another bond that we shared. So that was
Yeah.
great. So great.
Yeah, I love. So if anyone wants to talk to us, if we, we might have to do a separate podcast on just Asian dramas. We're gonna branch out because it's not
Oh
just K
man.
dramas. There's all we have, just Japan and China. We might get into India. You know, we'll just cover the whole spectrum there. Uh,
Oh,
is that a
oh,
T?
great,
Is
man.
that a TNC shirt?
It is, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I might have the same one.
Dude, we gotta get you back over here, man, at
Yeah,
some point. I
one of
hope
these
so.
days. Yeah, yeah. Because you mentioned it. Yeah, I used to live on Oahu in Kariohe. Uh,
Yep.
so that's yeah, it's been a while. Everybody, that my kids are like, oh, we want to go to Hawaii. We want to go to Hawaii. Like, yeah, we'll get back there one of these days.
Yeah. Is your wife from the East Coast too, or no?
She is actually from Colorado.
Oh,
So
okay.
she
All
was
right.
she was born in Washington State, and she's from Colorado. So we actually met at the Pentagon, which is another connection that we share because it's the
Oh,
military connection.
that's right.
Um, but we met at the Pentagon because
Wild.
she was stationed there. I was working as a contractor.
Oh,
Um,
dude. Had
so
no idea.
yeah, my 9 to 5, I do. I'm a creative director, so I've worked for many many companies, and at the time
Awesome.
I was really kind of bringing the Department of Defense into the digital age and creating their web presence.
Oh
Um,
man.
that's we met because she was a journalist, photojournalist at the time. So she
Okay.
was the first to cover um, the Gitmo trials, actually. So if
Oh
you go,
wow.
some of the first photos that came out of there, out of Gitmo, were from her. So she was flown down and took those shots, and that's not how we met, but we met because we were in
Yeah.
the same area.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Yeah, and so did you move around a lot? So you started in Hawaii. Was it directly to Virginia after that, or
Yeah, so
a couple places in between?
We were Guam before,
Oh, okay.
and then from Hawaii we came back to Virginia. Um, I It was shortly after that that my parents divorced, so we didn't. That was pretty much the end of a lot of the deployments.
Okay.
Uh, so we've stayed. I've pretty much stayed in this general area for most of my life now,
Yeah.
because we came back early '90s, and I've been here since.
Awesome, man. Yeah, definitely. Putting it down for the East Coast. I love it, man. And what's Chrome currently working on? What special projects do you want to highlight and talk about? Anything we should be on the lookout for?
Let's see. We have the EP with Arrested Development that'll be dropping soon. I
Woo!
have an
I
album
cannot
that will
wait.
be that I'm working on, trying to wrap that up as quickly as possible. The lead single will have Corrupt on it. Uh,
Oh man, holy cow!
so there's that. I have the album with Spit Slam that I'm wrapping up. I had a conference call with Branford Marsalis in August to hop on one of the songs on there.
Jeez.
So that one, it's taking a bit longer because there's just a lot of different pieces involved. It's a massive project.
Okay.
I just wrapped up an album with the One Chatio. We have a lead single
Wow.
with Chuck D on it.
Oh man.
Uh, let's see, Breeze Overflowing and I are getting ready to drop another single.
Oh, jeez,
Um,
man. Stay busy.
so I mean, there's a lot of different projects. Otep and I are working on an album. Um,
As you as the producer for the entire thing?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, dope, man.
So we're working on that. I and there's I I actually I have set up Monday.com to kind of manage my projects and manage what I'm working on, because it got to a point where there was just so much going on. I couldn't
Sure.
uh, juggle it. But there's all kinds of things. You and I have the project that I need to wrap up. I think it's back on me. Um, so there's a lot out there.
Yeah. Hey, man, never a rush, man. Creativity takes time, and I can't wait. How exciting, man! I love it, man. And for folks to who are looking for Chrome music, is there a specific website that you want them to go to, or just purely a streaming platform that you get all your music at? What's the best place to find your music?
If you go to chromebeats.com, that
Yep.
really filters out to all the different page. It goes to all the different social platforms. It goes to all the
Okay.
different streaming sites. It goes to everything on Bandcamp, and that's Chrome Beats, Krohme beats.com, and
That's
that'll
it.
take you where you need to go. Uh,
Awesome, man. Well, hey, man, I wanted to say just thank you so much for taking time out of your weekend, your Sunday to do this. This was so much fun just getting into the mind of Chrome and just, again, just highlighting all the amazing stuff that you've done in the history of Chrome in general and just all the future projects that you got going on. So I'm very grateful. Thank you. I can't wait to get this interview out. Any final words before we close this session out?
no, again, thank you for inviting me on. I've been a fan of your work actually
Oh,
for
man.
quite some time. That's actually why I was excited to do the original remix, Red Sunset. Just been a fan of your work, and I was glad that we connected on a personal level. And one
Yeah,
of the big things that I wanted to do with when I came back into music, and I refer to this as the 2.0 of my career, is connecting with the people that I work with, as humans, and not just we're making music together, but to actually get to know people. And it's been awesome being able to be able to talk about K dramas with you, and be able
yeah,
to talk about
yeah.
things that and growing up in Hawaii, and now that you're there, it's incredible to be able to have these experiences now, and not take it for granted, because I think this is where, even if we don't create any more music, I think we've established ourselves as friends, and I
That's
think
right.
that's what's really important.
That's
Yes,
it.
yes, we make music, but being able to use that kind of as kind of the basis for, a friendship is what's, been incredible with, this 2.0. And, being able to be here right now talking to, about, just, everything is amazing. And, I think that's, while it starts with the music, I think it's also, it's a testament to you as a person, and everything that you've done and everything you've accomplished as, as a father and as an artist. Being able to develop those relationships and being able to pull all this together is incredible. So, no, thank you. Um, but yeah, it's been, obviously I love being able to have the opportunity to talk about the music, and I hope everyone really takes the time to appreciate not just my music, there's stuff out there, but really the calm bomb artists, and all of the artists that we work with, and really be able to appreciate all the different genres that we're trying to open ears to.
100%, man. I'm super honored and just humbled to be in a circle with you in whatever capacity. And again, I tell you time and time again, man, you're just an amazing human being. So thank you again, man.
No, thank you.